Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and if you've seen the title of today's video, you know it's about to be insane. So today, I am going to let you in behind the scenes into my very insane physical TBR list. Let me preface this by saying, before March of 2020, I probably at any time owned between 5 to 10 unread books. That was very normal for me. In fact, 10 would be a lot. I usually had maybe 5. I was very controlled. I had a plan. Life was simple. And then COVID hit. And then I was quarantined and got bored and got way back into the book world and became way more aware of what books were coming out each month just to give myself something to live for. Since March, my physical TBR pile has grown immensely to a point of absolute chaos. I'm going to be showing you every book I own that I have not read. We're probably gonna move locations and we're gonna have to go fast because there's a lot. But the reason I'm doing this is because I need accountability. I gotta get through these books. And so what I wanna start doing is in my monthly wrap-ups, start tallying how many books I knocked off of my physical TBR by reading them, DNFing them, unhauling them. That's all the possibilities. And then also keeping a tally of how many books I added to my physical TBR and try to minimize that number as much as possible. I don't even know how many I own at this point. It'll be a surprise for all of us, but we'll tally them as we go, and hopefully it's not too insane, but I know that it will be. So we'll start here. This is my TBR table, as I like to call it. It sits in my living room. It is very convenient. This is where I try to put the books that I want to read next. So up on the top will be like any sort of reading vlog plans. I keep the books grouped together. On the bottom, I put my 5-star predictions usually, and then I also keep track of the books I read each month on this shelf as well. So as soon as I read it, it goes on the bottom shelf. It's cleared out right now because I just filmed my October wrap up. But yeah, this is the table that has my most immediate, interesting, want to read soon books. So we'll start up here. I have these 4 classic horror books that I got in these beautiful Barnes & Noble's editions because I just could not resist. And I had this whole plan. I was gonna do a reading classic horror reading vlog in October, and that didn't happen. These books remain unread, unfortunately, but I do just need to read them. This big edition of the Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. Is it gonna be read soon? No. But Frankenstein, Dracula, and Jane Eyre, I definitely think I can get to at some point. But how are you supposed to not purchase these when you see these? Look at how beautiful their spines look all together. They have sprayed edges. That one's really shiny. I just love them so much. Then we have more failed reading plans. I was also planning on doing a video of reading witchy books for October, which I just didn't get around to. So I have These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling, which now there's a sequel to, which just stresses me out even more. Initiated by Amanda Yates Garcia. This is a memoir of a witch. And like, that sounds really cool. The audiobook used to be on Scribd. I don't know if it is anymore, but I really like memoirs on audiobooks, so that'll help me get around to this at some point. And then The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, which is a 2020 release that I do want to read before the end of the year. I'm gonna do it. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna happen. I also have Misery because I was going to read this in my Stephen King reading vlog and just didn't have the energy to read it. I don't know if I ever will at this point now, honestly, because yeah, I don't know. So I'm also gonna try to unhaul some books through this and get rid of the ones that I really don't think I'm gonna read. So that's also going to be a part of this. I don't know, I'll read this eventually, right? Do you see how a problem starts? Yeah. Then I have Middle Game by Seanan Mcguire. I've wanted to read this for a long time because it's one of Books and Lala's favorite books. And then I am currently now reading Over the Woodward Wall, which is also by Seanan Mcguire, but a Deborah Baker pseudonym, which is part of this book. It's like connected. And so now I really have to read it. It's gonna happen sometime. This is a book my friend let me borrow, so I didn't buy this one, so this doesn't count. Then we have all these books up here. I don't really want to take them down because that would just be a lot of work. I have The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson, which I was gonna read in October, but didn't get around to. In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which I am going to read in December for sure because that is a Christmas romance, so of course I'll be reading that. Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips. This is I think it came out this year, and I'm pretty sure it's an environmental fiction. Honestly, I don't fully know, but I feel like it's gonna win a lot of prizes and awards if it hasn't already, and I love environmental fiction. So I definitely wanted that one. Mother, Daughter, Widow, Wife. It's a new thriller that came out by Robin Wasserman. I've heard nobody talking about it, and it sounds really interesting. It's like an amnesia thriller, which I'm usually not into, but this one just sounds interesting, and the cover is really nice. So yeah, that was necessary. Lot 6 by David Ajmi. I don't think I'll count that either. It's a memoir, but the publisher sent that to me kindly, and so I didn't purchase it with my own money, so it doesn't count. We're not going to count it. And then Ghosts of Harvard by Francesca Saratella. This is one that one of my favorite bookstagrammers has been recommending for months, and I'm going to read it at some point. I was supposed to read it in October. I just didn't, but I just know if she loves it, I'm going to love it because we always love the same books, so of course I had to have that one. And then down here we have like next tier of interested reads. Rebecca is down here, which I actually DNF'd this month, so we don't have to count that. I'll bring you a little closer. So I have Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino. This is a nonfiction book about self-delusion. It just sounds right up my alley. Again, I know I'm going to get to this at some point. It's just really hard for me to choose a nonfiction over a fiction book, especially when everyone's hyping up a fiction book, and this, like, the hype over this has died down, so it's harder for me to choose it, but I will definitely read this at some point. Betty by Tiffany Mcdonald. This is a new 2020 book. It is set in the Appalachian Mountains, or Appalachian, however you choose to say it, which is near where I'm from here in North Carolina, so definitely wanted to read this one. I've also heard really good things about it. Winter Counts by David Heska Wombley Wyden. This is a Native American crime thriller, and it was really highly praised. It just came out in 2020, and so I'm gonna read this one at some point. How many times have I said that? Let's not put a tally on that, but it is shorter, so I should be able to knock this one out quickly at some point. And then I've made the mistake this year of deciding that I want to get into fantasy and I don't know what I like, and so I just find things and then buy them and then never choose to like actively read them. So those have been accumulating. One of those is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Obviously, I'm sure you know what this is if you're watching a booktube video. Everyone's talked about it, but it's really hard for me to choose to read a series because then I feel like I'm going to have to immediately read everything else in this series instead of all these other millions of books that I have. So it's harder to pick up. Piranesi by Susanna Clark is one that just came out in 2020. I think this one has something to do with libraries or books or a house. Yeah, it's like a house with infinite rooms and corridors, and kind of reminds me of the Starless Sea vibes, which I did not like. But this one's small, so thought I'd give it a chance. And A Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I heard Olivia from Olivia Reads a Latte talking about this one and describing the plot, and it just sounded really good. And it's a standalone fantasy, which is what I'm looking for to try to get into fantasy, since I'm not gonna read these series for sure. And then we have this shelf where all these other books sit that are 5-star predictions, like The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. This is the last 5-star prediction I have to get to in my first round of those books, so this is actually going to be read by me very, very soon. And then a couple other books that I'm just really anticipating, like Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, very short. Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. I could not find the name of the author. This I got because Gabby from Gabby Reads said it was amazing, and I trust her thriller and horror recommendations most of the time. The New Wilderness by Diane Cook. This is a 2020 book that's winning a lot of awards. It's up for some National Book Award prize. It is an environmental, apocalyptic thriller, sci-fi something going on, but like I said, love environmental fiction, so was very interested in this one. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which I may have read by the time this video comes out because I'm going to start reading this for a readathon that I'm participating in. And The Devil in the Dark Water by Sort Turton. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. I loved The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Sort Turton, so I definitely will read this. It's just way thicker than I thought it was gonna be. It's like almost 500 pages, so gonna have to dedicate some time to this one. Oh, and I also have Devotions by Mary Oliver on this table, but this is a poem collection, which I never anticipate sitting down and reading front to back, so I don't really want to count this on this roster. I just want to pick this up and read poems as I choose and kind of mark them because I really like Mary Oliver's poetry. Okay, so I don't know where we tallied just going through this table, but I'm already nervous. I feel like this number is going to be really high, but I'm going to go into my other room room where I have a small bookshelf where I keep all the rest of my next priority of unread books, and then we'll go to the third location. Okay, so this is location number 2. This is the room my dog is usually in, so there is a dog camera and dog treats up here and other things, but this is where I keep the next round of books that I want to read. And there used to be some organization to this, but it's kind of gotten a little chaotic. I don't want to pull every book off of this shelf, so I'm just going to take you on a tour through this bookshelf to show you what there is. So up here we have a little true crime section. I have a couple of Anne Rule books, so Green River Running Red and The Stranger Beside of Me that I got at a bargain store once because I knew I'd want to read them eventually and they were really cheap. And the Mindhunter book, which my mom actually gave to me because she had it and I don't even think she read it. But anyway, small little true crime section here. Also have this little book, The Elements of Style by William Strunk Jr. and E.B. White, which is just about writing, and it's really small. I've never read it, obviously, if it's sitting here, but another one that I don't anticipate reading front to end. It's just like a good resource to have, so I won't count this in the total either. Then we've got a couple of books from Failed Reading Vlog. So I was going to read The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon for something, and I don't even remember what reading vlog it was, but I ended up not being super interested in it. And then the second I decided not to read it, I've seen so many people that I know saying this is so good. I was going to unhaul it, but now I'm like, no, I should probably read it if everyone likes it. So I'm gonna give this a try at some point. And then The Turn of the Screw by Henry James is a classic horror story that I DNF'd and honestly will probably get rid of. So we can add this to the unhaul pile and start tallying that as well. Then we have Zadie Smith's Imitations. This just came out in 2020. This was like a quarantine book and I got it for like $3 at a bargain store. So I was super stoked about that. And then a couple of True Blood books. I got these for my mom as well. So I didn't purchase these. So we will not add these 3 to the tally, which I can justify because I didn't pay for them. So if I don't read them, it's not like upsetting me. So I also will not count Mindhunter, since that also came from my mom. We have another classic horror, The Haunting of Hill House, which I was going to read for that Reading Classic Horror vlog and just never ended up doing. Another fantasy book that I got just because I wanted to try them, All the Stars and Teeth, which I thought was a standalone, but I think now is a sequel. Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. I can't believe I haven't read this yet because I read everything Colleen Hoover puts out, but yeah, I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet. A Little Life. I am also going to read this in November. I'm gonna have a whole reading vlog for reading this finally, so definitely know this will be up soon. I can actually move it out to my TBR table. These romance books I picked up when they were getting a lot of hype because I was just starting to get into reading romance, and then like a week after I got them, I was kind of sick of romance. So I'm waiting to hit another like romance reading time, and I really want to read romance because I know I'm going to want to read these books. It's just like, when am I in the mood for romance again? And then Loveless by Alice Oseman. I just got this as well because this is a 2020 release. It follows an asexual main character, which I've only read like 1 or 2 books that feature an asexual character. So I definitely wanted to read that to get a little more representation in my reading. Hark the Herald Angels Scream. This is a short story collection of like creepy Christmas stories. I am gonna pull this out because it's worth it. I remember seeing someone read this last year. I can't remember who it was, but they read it around Christmas time and I was like, that looks really stupid. Maybe it was Paperback Dreams, but I was like, that looks really stupid. And then I saw it at a bargain store, and then I saw it was a Bloomhouse book and all of these authors I know featured in it, and it seemed necessary. And then we have Everything Inside by Edwidge Danticat, which is a short story collection. It was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, and there was a time when I was reading every single Reese Witherspoon book club pick the month it came out. I'm not doing that anymore. It's a lot to keep up with, but that's why I have this book. I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet, but it's a Haitian short story collection, and I don't know if I've ever read Haitian stories, so I definitely do want to read this. And then over here we just have a random collection of a couple graphic novels that I'm interested in. The Girl with the Louding Voice. Everyone says this is amazing. I just haven't picked it up yet, but I do want to read this by the end of 2020 for sure. Also Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This is another one that I've had for a long time and just need to read by the end of this year. So if you guys don't see me read these by the end of this year, just like yell at me in the comments because I need to read these. Also have another fantasy, like I said,
This is a series. That's why it hasn't been read yet. And then Thick, this is an essay collection. A couple of these small books, I like to save them for readathon opportunities because you can just get through them really quickly. We have Becoming by Michelle Obama. I started this on audiobook and I know everyone loves it, but I just didn't. The Chain by Adrienne McKenty, I've heard a lot of bad things about actually ever since I got it. So I think it's one of those where I'll like read a little bit of it, and if I'm not into it, then I'll just DNF. The Herd by Andrea Barth. This is a new book that came out this year that nobody's really talking about. These three I just don't know about. A lot of times I'll pick up like these thrillers at bargain stores and then decide that I don't want to read them because they're just like conventional thrillers, so I'm not attracted to them as much as I am for like thrillers that I know will be really good from people I love. If you think differently about any of these three, let me know. Then we have Take Me Apart by Sarah Sliger. This is another new thriller that came out this year that is about like an archivist going through all these files to solve a crime of some sort. Where the Crawdads Sing, I'm the only person in the world who hasn't read this yet. Please don't yell at me. Long Bright River, I wanted to read this earlier in the year. It's just a thick boy, so it's gonna be hard. Wonderland and Survivor Song we can talk about at the same time. These are two new horror books that came out this year. I am anticipating this one to be bad. I've heard a lot of bad things about this. I wanted to read this because I thought it would be one of the top 10 horror books on Goodreads awards of the year, which I think it's gonna be, so I wanted to read it. But yeah, it's hard to convince yourself to read books that you think you're not gonna like. So if you've read either of them and been surprised, like, let me know. And My Lovely Wife, I really am excited for this one because I just read Samantha Downing's new book. He started it and I loved it, so I think I'm really gonna like this one. Also up here we have Check Please. It is another graphic novel that is a series, so I just haven't read it yet, but it's about hockey. It sounded cute. And then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and Zadie, which are two young adult thrillers. Also The Grace Year is young adult. This is like a dystopian story. The Astonishing Color of After, I think, is also young adult, but like emotional young adult. I wanted to start reading V.E. Schwab, so I thought I was going to start here, but then Addie LaRue came out and I'm way more excited for that, so I'm going to read Addie LaRue first. I didn't intentionally skip over the Nickel Boys. I was just going through the ones that are kind of grouped together as young adult, but we also have the Nickel Boys. Colson Whitehead won a ton of awards, really popular. Illuminae, I just got this really cheap at a discount store, but yep, this is a series, so we'll see. The Wife Between Us, I have read An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pickanen, and I feel like they're just fine. There's other thrillers I would definitely prioritize over theirs. So Truly Devious and Horror Store, I just got these at a bargain store like last weekend. This is a young adult thriller series, and this is a standalone horror by Grady Hendrix. I was hesitant to read this because I read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and I found it to be a little problematic. This is like an IKEA catalog formatted horror, so I was interested in it, and I don't know, everyone just is really liking Grady Hendrix's stuff, so I thought maybe I would give him another chance. I also just got Throne of Glass at a bargain store, but yeah, that's a huge series, so it's gonna be a while before we read that one. These books I've had for quite some time, except for How Much of These Hills is Gold. I just got this recently too, but this is a very popular 2020 debut, so I will be reading this probably by the end of the year. But the others have just kind of sat here for a while. Woven in Moonlight, now it's a series, and I'm like, ugh, come on. Girls, A Paper and Fire, also a series. What's this? Oh, this is The Adventures of China Iron. I got this in a book subscription box. It's like a book from Argentina that is translated. And Ceremonials, I was supposed to read this during the reading rush and just never did, so it's just been sitting here. Then we have A Skeleton in the Family by Lee Perry. This is like a cozy mystery that looks really stupid, and I was gonna read this in October, but to be honest, I just forgot about it. The Glass Castle, I'll read that one day. Everyone loves it. What Lies Between Us by John Mars. I really like the one by John Mars, but I don't know. I'm just not super like intrigued to read that one. Diaries, I think I'm gonna read this month. Invisible Man, I'll probably end up DNFing this, honestly. I just feel like it's gonna be really dense, and I didn't know it was like a old classic when I got it. I thought it was a newer book, but I don't know. We'll give it a shot. These two books I got from a TBR recommendation service. I think I'm really gonna like The Hole. I don't know about The Quelling. The Collected Schizophrenias, I'm very interested in, and I'm trying to read this month. Perfect Days was also a part of this book recommendation thing. I wasn't stoked for it. I thought it sounded kind of dumb, but then I've heard some really good reviews of it recently, so we'll see. The Diviners, I wanted to read that in October. It's a series. I can't commit. Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. I thought this sounded really interesting. And Where the Forest Meets the Stars by Glendy Vanderat. That also sounded really interesting. And I've been more into magical books recently, so I'm really excited for these. I'm trying to read this one in November. We'll see when I get to this one.
Okay, so that's all the books I have in here, and now I'm out of breath, and now we're gonna go to the third location. Okay, so I went to the third location, but my boyfriend was playing video games, which I feel like you don't want to listen to. So I just brought the books out here, and this is what we are working with.
So some of these books, admittedly, I don't even remember when I got them or why I got them. This science fiction classic collection, I don't know if I'll ever read this, to be honest, but it just seems like a cool book to have if you ever do want to read a short story by H.G. Wells or, you know, any of these other folks in here. Full Dark, No Stars is like one of the first Stephen King collections that I got and just never read it, but I've actually read Stephen King now and feel like I won't like this. I Found You by Lisa Jewell. I thought Lisa Jewell was one of my favorite thriller authors, but I'm finding out that I don't know if she is. I'm in the middle of her new book, Invisible Girl, right now. If I like it, then I'll read this one day. If I don't, then maybe I'll just move on from her. Commonwealth by Ann Patchett. I feel like this is one, I bought this before I even knew what was going on in the book world, honestly. It's been on my shelves a long time. These two books by Joan Chaney. I don't remember who told me about Joan Chaney, but somebody did. Somebody once upon a time brought this author up to me. And so I got these books because they were available at my local bookstore for really cheap. And I've heard that Joan Chaney's writing is amazing. They're like thrillers. I've had them for forever. Who is Joan Chaney? Have you guys ever read Joan Chaney? Who told me about Joan Chaney? I don't know. Bazaar of Bad Dreams, that's another Stephen King collection that I have. I think I just got it cheap somewhere. I used to just like buy these Stephen King books thinking that one day I would read them. You're a Badass, like, am I ever gonna read this? I don't know, it was cheap at Target. The Rules of Magic, I'm prepared to DNF this. I don't think I'm gonna be interested in it. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I have this because my mom and I go to Savannah, Georgia a couple times. I mean, we've been a couple times, we don't go like a lot, but this is like true ghost stories from Savannah. So I thought I was gonna read this like right after the last time we went, and then I didn't, but I will read it. Modern Love, I don't think I'm gonna read this, if we're being honest. They made it into a show on Amazon, and I'm like, I'd rather just watch that than read these. The Soul of an Octopus, I had this recommended to me. It's just a woman who's obsessed with octopuses, who thinks they're really cool. Fates and Furies, I don't know anything about this. I don't know. It was a National Book Award finalist, but yeah. I might just put all of these books together that I just don't know, that I think I want to unhaul, but I'm not sure. And do like try a chapter tag or something. Like High Crime Area by Joyce Carol Oates. I don't know when or why I got this. It's been on my shelves for years. Beartown I got recently because I just read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman and I loved it, so I definitely will read Beartown. Educated and A Woman Is No Man are two books that were really highly hyped up. Sometimes that just like prevents me from reading a book because I just don't know if I'm gonna love it like everyone else does, and so yeah, they've sat here forever. The Lies We Told, I got this from like a blind date with a book box thing, and it sounds terrible, so I don't think I'll read it. There Will Come a Darkness. I got this recently at a bargain store. It is a fantasy book, and it's a series now, so you know how I feel about that. Six of Crows. I honestly had no idea that I owned this. I wanted to read this book a couple months ago because it's a duology, so I feel like I can handle that, and everybody loves it, so I thought I should give it a try. And so I went to purchase it, but then I was like, I don't know, I'll just kind of wait. And then I went home to my mom's house, and this was on the freaking bookshelf. I was like, I've had this since I was a teenager and I never read it. Like, when did I buy it? I have no memory of doing that. It was so weird, but I will read that one day, and I'll probably do a reading vlog of reading this and the duology sequel. Behind Her Eyes got really close to being unhauled, and then a lot of people all of a sudden say that they like it. I'm pretty sure I know what happens. I'm pretty sure it was spoiled for me. The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. I really liked Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. And then this was cheap at a bargain store, so I got it. But like, I feel like it's gonna be really similar. It's just another sister story. So I don't know, if you've read Karen Slaughter, let me know if this is worth reading or not. And then Split Tooth. I was gonna read this in October, but TBH, I forgot about it. But look how nice this copy is. It has red sprayed edges.
And now all we have left is this stack of classics that I've had forever, And as most people probably feel, it's really hard to pick up a classic when there's so many new books coming out that you would rather read. Like, why would I read a classic when I could read a 2020 release? But these are the ones that I do want to get to at some point in my life. So I have The Awakening by Kate Chopin, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller, Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. If you remember earlier, I have 2 copies of this and had no idea. So I'll definitely get rid of this one because the font's really small and it's really brown. So that's kind of gross. Jane Eyre, I have an edition right up there that's prettier. So I will definitely keep the prettier one. Font is also really small on this one, so I doubt I would ever be able to actually read this. So we'll add this to the unhaul pile. Dracula, another one that I have a copy of right up there. The font's actually fine in this one, and I might read this copy and then unhaul it and save that copy because it's a special edition, so I don't want to like ruin the spine too much or anything, and so then I get like a good reading in. But this is someone I know, it's her favorite book ever, so I also could like mark it up if I end up liking it and then have 2 editions if I also like it as much. I don't know, we'll see, but I'm gonna keep it for now. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I think this is magical realism, and I love magical realism. This is like a staple in the genre, so I definitely have to read this at some point. I have no idea what this is or why I own this. It's called Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. So I feel like I could unhaul it, but also I'm like, it's really short, so if I ever did want to read it, it would be really easy because it's only 60 pages. This is how a problem is formed. Then I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Oh my gosh. I'm going to keep this as well. The font is a nice size. It's a good paperback. I do want to read this at some point. I tried earlier in the year to tell myself that every month I was either going to read a backlist book. So those are books that just came out before 2020, but I consider my backlist like this, all these latest books I just showed you that sit on my 3rd bookshelf that I've had for years and just have not read. Or I wanted to read a classic, so every month I was reading one of those to get them off my list, and I did it for like 2 or 3 months and then I stopped. So maybe I'll be really intentional about doing that in 2021. That's all my books, the unread ones at least. Don't come after me. I have been building this collection for years. A lot of them have been purchased this year, but also like a good 30% of them I've had since I was like 16 or something. I didn't count these while I was going, but I'll count them as I'm editing and show you the running tally as we go, so you've known what it is. It's this many books that I have that I haven't read. That's a lot, probably. But the good news is now I can be really accountable about it and monitor this number in my wrap-ups each month. We'll see how many new books I add to this number and how many I take off of it by reading, DNFing, or unhauling them. I'm excited to watch this number dwindle down, and I hope you are too. If you also have a lot of unread books that you own, comment and let me know so I can feel less alone in this growing TBR pile. But yeah, that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.